Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Work From Home Show. Shout out to all our homies, homeboys, homegirls, home trans, all the work from homers out there. I'm Naresh. This with Adam Schrader. It's a new year, ain't it, Adam?
New year, new you!
Well, if you remember last year's New Year's episode, you know how I feel about New Year's and the holidays and New Year. Don't even ask me what my New Year's resolutions are. I know you said on the last episode that you have some goals. You do have some goals.
I mean, no matter how you think about, New Year and blah, 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 it is a nice delineating point where you can sit down and kind of plan out what you want to accomplish over the next year. I mean, because you need to have goals, and it's a nice round thing to look at for your goals. So I like to set things that, I want to accomplish, and they need to push me as well. Because, the stuff I have is going to require me to do more than I did last year. So
I agree. I definitely agree with you in the sense that you always want to be pushing yourself. You always want to maximize how well you can do. I'm just not a fan of course, I'm not a fan of resolutions, but I'm not a fan of goals in general either. Because a lot of goals, let's talk about goal setting, because I worked at a company where every week we had these goal meetings, and I thought they were pointless, and people started setting such low goals just so they could impress their boss and be like, oh, these are the goals that I had last week, and this is what I accomplished by the end of the week. And we're talking, it's kind of like you telling your son who's in public school, or not even telling him, if he sets a goal of getting C's or D's. Let's say he sets a goal of getting D's and he gets C's, and he's like, oh, look, I beat my goal.
Can't win them all.
Can't win them all for sure. So Adam, how do you feel about these goals? Like, I just gave you this example of your son setting these very low goals. Like, do you write down goals, or?
I have some written down goals just so I don't forget what I want to do, but they are not. So basically, I think you should start with your goals from last year, and they need to be bigger than they were last year.
Yeah.
The things I put down, I told you I don't really want to go into the specifics of it, but in order for me to achieve the goals that I have set, I have to do more, both personally and professionally this year, than I did last year. If I just repeat this last year, I will not achieve what I want to achieve.
So I'll say this, because now I can organize how I view goals better. I would view goals as numerical goals or quantitative goals. So let's just call them numerical goals and checklist goals. Numerical goals and checklist goals. So checklist goals would be like, I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro this year. Mm-hmm. I want to start a business this year. I want to write a book this year. I want to start a podcast this year. And then numerical goals would be like, I want to make X amount of money this year, which it sounds like you just shared some numerical goals. I don't agree with the numerical goals.
I didn't set how much I wanted to make. I set mine based on, this is what I want to do. So like, for example, I'll just give you some general things. I want to buy 2 properties this year. I want to invest in 2 creative financing deals.
I want to hear about that after we're done with this goal thing. But
so those are 4 investments I want to do this year. And then we have house projects we want to accomplish this year that involve
so these are like checklists.
Redoing closet, redoing the backyard. And so I know budgetary what I need to make it get done. So that's what it's...
budgetary is where the numeric... So it sounds like checklist goals, but then when you talk about budget, that sounds numerical.
Yeah. So it's just, but do I say how much? I know in general how much I'll need, but it could be more, could be less. So,
Gotcha.
but I don't say like this year I want to make 200 grand. No, it's this year the things I want to,
Yeah.
if I accomplish everything in my goal, it's going to be around 200 grand to pay for everything. But, you know,
Yeah, well, I remember when I was working at that company, that CEO is no longer there, but they did not do a good job. Like I said, people would lowball themselves on purpose. They would surpass their or meet their goals, surpass the expectations, get bonuses, pat themselves on the back. Oh, I accomplished this goal and that goal. It was kind of laughable, actually. It was really funny. But I remember the numerical goal because so many people were setting numerical goals and lowballing. And I think the numerical goals are just when somebody asks me, like, how much do you want? Okay, you're starting this business. Like, how much do you want to grow the business? And it's like infinite, it's like, I want to grow it to be $1 billion, multi-billion, infinite business, obviously. Like, to limit yourself to, oh, I want it to be $1 million business, a $500,000 business. That's not really a goal that you should have. And those questions are so hard to answer. It's like, how much money do you want in retirement? It's like infinite.
but you don't want to say like, I want my company to be at least $1 million company by the end of the year.
I want to say, okay, so by the end of the year, putting a defined time limit, I think is a little better, because you'll know, okay, this year I did 500,000, so next year let's try to get up to 1 million. But what if you reach that million in month 3? Do you just quit for the rest of the 9 months? Say, oh, I reached my goal.
Well, if you reach your goal in the first 3 months for the year, you set a week goal. That's true. I mean, your goals
that
should
can happen. That can happen sometimes.
It could, yeah, but your
D
goals,
student.
your goals should stretch you. I mean, the likelihood of me attaining every single thing I want to achieve this year is, to be completely honest, based on everything, the way it's lined up, 40% chance it happens. I'm going to try to make it 100%, but it's probably a 40 to 50% chance it happens.
Okay. Well, let's say 50-50 chance. Good luck. Keep us updated.
Yeah,
End
but
of the year.
if I go down, I'm going down swinging.
Like I said on the last episode, that's when you're a millennial like us, Gen Z, that's the only way to do it. It really is. So I say go for it. Swing for the fences. So, Adam, let's talk about a few topics. Now that we've talked about the goals. Well, first off, what's this creative financing deal? What's that all about?
Getting lease options, subject to probably lease options is the route I'm going to go, and getting tenants with options to buy. I'm starting that process and looking into doing some of those deals to seeing if they pan out like they pencil out. I just have to find the right deal, because you just have to remember that, if things go sideways, you're holding the property. So I have to make sure that I find the right tenant in the right market at the right time. So we'll see. I'm going to do at least one. If that goes well, then I'll look into doing multiples outside of that. But it's just to kind of test the waters, see how it goes.
Yeah, okay. That sounds good. Good goal to have. I haven't thought about that yet. I'm not there yet. I'm still in money saving mode, so I can buy my next few properties, and then after that, maybe I'll start doing that and pick your brain. Actually, you've been we did a real estate episode. You've been the early mover when it comes to the two of us. Usually do things first, and then I just follow. Let's talk a little bit about remote working from home. First off, this is season 4, and can't believe we're already at season 4. It's pretty amazing. When we started season 1, we talked about working from home and how we were early movers in working from home. And now, 3 years later after the pandemic, Adam, how do you think this whole work from home fad or trend has worked out? Like, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you reading?
It's been heartening and disheartening at the same time. I think it showed that a lot of people could do it, but it also showed that a lot of managers talk the talk but weren't willing to trust people to walk the walk. Because, I mean, like, there were so many businesses that were like, oh, we're never coming back in office again. And then things open back up and they're like, actually, just kidding, be here on Monday. And it's really disheartening that, you know, I know some people sure abuse the system, but they let the minority.
How can you abuse the system? Like, what are some examples? I've read some things and I say, this is not abuse of the system. This is just working smart.
I mean, I just know there are people who supposedly weren't working this and the other, and they felt they were taking advantage of the system. I don't really care. I mean, if you're doing your job, you're doing your job.
Exactly.
But that's not the way people think. And it's unfortunate that we haven't reached that point where doing your job is enough, because for some reason, everybody thinks that your job is what you're being paid to do plus random things that are unpaid. Because you should be trying to show your worth and give the company more than they're paying you and all that crap.
Well, I'll share some examples of what I've come across through friends, through the media, how to abuse the system. And I don't think these are abuses. So number one is during the pandemic, when people were asked to work from home, many people moved. So let's say they lived in San Francisco or New York. They said, hey, you got to work from your apartment or whatever. And some people temporarily moved initially, and then they just ended up moving out to like Florida or Texas, in some cases, even to South America, to India, to Europe. They just got the hell out. And the companies, they said that was an abuse of their roles as employees. And I'm like, no, it's not, because you had the companies literally had no idea until they said, hey, all right, our office is back open, come back into the office. And these people were like, I'm like literally on the other side of the globe. I can't make it.
Well, there were some companies getting screwed by employees doing that because of taxes and them suddenly operating in other states.
Yeah.
That did happen, which is something we didn't discuss because I never even thought of it.
I don't think we know much about. I mean, we'd have to interview a tax expert on that.
Yeah, but there were some companies who got hit with big tax bills because when you're paying someone a salary who works in, like, let's say, I'm in Texas, and if I hire somebody and they move to New York, and I'm paying them a salary, apparently, you have to pay taxes in New York for the people, and they didn't know they were in New York, and then they found out and they had to pay extra taxes, and they were not happy with that.
Okay, so that makes sense why they would be unhappy about that. So you can say that's an abuse, but I don't think the companies were very explicit up front. They weren't like, hey, you cannot move to another state or another country. I think had they been more explicit, like, if you do this, like, and we find out, you will get fired, I don't think the workers would have done it.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, that was a common abuse of power. The other, or not power, but well, I guess you can say the employees all of a sudden got power during this work from home movement. But that was number one. Another example I heard pretty frequently, and you brought this up on I think the first or second episode that we ever did, and that's working multiple jobs. So like, I have a friend who has 3 full-time jobs, all work from home. And none of the 3 know about each other. And he said, hey, he told me, this friend in fact, we should bring him on the show anonymously, obviously, to talk about it, because he went from like chill first job, working maybe 2 hours a day, to picking up the second job, working 8 hours a day, like a regular 9 to 5, to picking up the third job where he's just completely slammed 7 days a week. But he's an IT director, and he's like an IT director at 3 different companies.
That sounds miserable.
So what do I have to say? Hey, if he's doing all 3 of those jobs really well, all the more power to him.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is it just showed that corporate America is not ready to say your job is just to do your job. They still believe they own the employees. They
still do, and I have to agree, not with your statement that they do own the employees, but I do agree that they still think that.
I didn't say they did. Working. I said they still think that they own their employees.
I think that they do.
Oh,
I think that they still do own the employees.
I mean,
And
until we
another
separate
reason,
healthcare from it, especially.
well, let's talk about telehealth. So here's another space. There's this company, I'll have to, it's a most popular telehealth company. I downloaded their app a short while ago because they are crushing it. Teladoc, or their stock was crushing it during the pandemic. And they're just a regular telehealth company. You can do appointments through your phone. It's like a 5 minute wait time. It's great. It's good stuff. But the billing is, I just don't think they can survive because you can bill more. Like, I don't know if your wife knows anything about this, but
So, Teladoc stock is down 72.32% over the last year.
yeah, that makes sense because they charge something like $30, 30 or $40 per visit. Whereas if you were to go in, and by visit, it's a virtual visit, obviously. If you were to go into a clinic, they can upsell you, say, oh, let's take this strep throat test, take this COVID test. And then on top of that, they have different coding for billing. So apparently the telehealth, they're only allowed to bill so much versus you go in for an appointment and it's automatic. They can bill, hundreds of dollars more. And so that's why I don't think telemedicine is going to stay. We've had a few episodes on this. It's super efficient. You can see a lot more patients, but at the end of the day, it's all about money, right? And if the medical community, if the healthcare space wants to work less and make more, they got to go back to the old model. I hate to say it.
Yep, unfortunately, that is true. And that's, yeah, just another
That's why
example of our.
Teladoc stock is down 75%. Let's see, any other abuses, or yeah, if you want to call it abuses.
I'm
Well,
trying to think of what all they were saying.
I bring this up because I don't think we were completely right, and I don't think we were completely wrong. Work from home has definitely made a huge impact. I know many people were like, my company, they got rid of their office. We're now completely virtual. Or I'm only working from home, or I'm working from the office like 1 day a week or 2 days a week. So the trend has certainly caught on and it was accelerated during the pandemic and it's just the way now for sure. There's no doubt about that. I have friends still who only work from home because of before the pandemic, all they knew was an office, and now they're still only working from home. So that's that's cool, that's fine. But the tech industry has had, I'm sure you're following this. We talked about last episode. Nasdaq is down, or at its low, it was down like 40%. The tech industry has been laying off left and right, and part of those layoffs were if you don't come back into the office, here's your exit package. Elon Musk even came in, he told his Tesla workers, he said, you're coming back to the office. And if you're not, you're laid off. It was an easy way to get rid of people. And with Twitter, what he did was kind of
He bought
interesting.
it.
Okay, yeah, he bought it. But what was interesting was he said, no more work from home. You show up to the office. And so he got rid of people who didn't like that. So he said, you're free to quit. So we got rid of them. And then once people came back to the office, he stopped paying the rent on the office space I think in San Francisco and in Seattle, and said, "Oh, this is all planned out." I mean, it's not like he changed his mind, but he said, "This is a waste of money. Like, why were why was the previous board spending so much money on these ridiculously nice offices? You can just work from home or get a cheaper office." So I don't know if you read the latest, but
No, I ignore anything about Elon Musk at this point in time.
really, I don't. I read everything about him at this point. Uh, People are bringing their own toilet paper to work because he got rid of the janitors at the office buildings, and then of course the offices shut down. Most of the offices have shut down, so people are working from home after he cut what, like 60% of the workforce, I think,
Yeah,
uh, whether it was voluntary or forced. So, what does this have to say about work from home? Yes, business owners, entrepreneurs are realizing, hey, like I can have very productive workers at home and it can actually save us a lot of money. And in Musk's case, Twitter never generated a profit in its history, and he's trying to make it profitable in year one. I don't know. That's a tall order to do, but I do think he's going to get it to be profitable simply by cutting the workforce and getting rid of unnecessary expenses like office space.
I'm hoping he just does all of America, all of the world solid and runs Twitter into the ground so we don't have to deal with it anymore.
Well, that's exactly why he didn't buy it. Twitter, it was kind of fine before. It's just from a shareholder. I was a shareholder, not a big one, it's a very small one. But from a shareholder perspective, the company was going absolutely, like the stock was not going really anywhere. The growth prospects were looking pretty slim. So we'll see. But I think so far he's doing a good job. The media has been bashing him left and right, but if it's all about dollars and cents, because he made a huge investment, $40 billion, if I'm not mistaken.
It was somewhere around there, yeah.
And he borrowed from Tesla as well to make this deal happen. So this is not about goodwill or changing the world. This is literally about turning a profit and getting a return on his investment. So we'll see how that works out. But going back to work from home, it is that hybrid approach that we've talked about. But we'll see as we enter a recession, apparently, or just even if we don't enter a recession, if times get a little tough, we'll see whether it's, hey, come back into the office so that we know that you're working, or if it's, hey, stay at home, we need to save money on the office space.
Yeah, I don't know which way we're going to go. It's really, I feel like corporate America wants it to go back to the office, but then they're also realizing they can save money. And it's an interesting juxtaposition to see what they're doing. And I feel like they're going to do what lazy people do, and they're just going to go back to the old status quo because that's the way it's been, which I think is a
good for us,
shame.
good for you and me.
Yeah, but I think it's a shame for society.
I agree. There was one article, Adam, that you sent over to me, and I wanted to go over it. And it says, did you know that 70% of professionals who transition to remote work because of the pandemic say they now work on weekends?
Yep, work creep.
45% say they regularly work more hours during the week than they did before. And these are not people, by the way, like my friend who works 3 jobs.
Well, it depends. It depends how you break it down. Because a lot of times people, when they say they work more hours from home, they're just available more. You know, so maybe you're doing some work in the morning, some work in the afternoon, some work in the evening, and you find yourself doing work at 8 o'clock at night. And then you're like, oh, dang, I put in a long work day. When in reality, have you worked more? No. Were you available more? Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know how they broke this down, but this is from Flex Jobs. And 65% of surveyed remote workers reported working more hours than they did while working in the office. So this is pretty clear that they're talking about actual work.
I would also say, I mean, if you've got that, it really shows how terrified people are of getting fired. I mean, it really does. Like, if you're working more hours because you're at home and you're worried about what your boss is going to think about your hours, it just shows that people are absolutely terrified of their employer, which goes back to the owning your employees thing. I mean, people are just terrified. I hate it. I hate everything about it.
Yeah, maybe.
Because there's, like I said, there's still this stupid attitude of, oh, well, I pay you to do this job. Why aren't you doing this job and this other stuff? And it's like, because you don't pay me for that. It's like, yeah, but I want you to do it. I just don't want to pay you for it.
I just have such a biased view that's pro work from home because I've been working from home since '08, since I was working for you. Actually, even before that, I was working from home. And I just always kind of had control over my work and like my role and my hours and my pay. And I'm hearing about other people who, friends of mine who were working a lot in the office and then they were asked to go home and they're working a lot at home. And there were certainly times for me where I went through, maybe 2 or 3 weeks at one time where I was up until 2 a.m. in the morning working, certainly. Like when I was getting started, my business, like writing my book or whatever. So I know what that feels like, but this is what it's like every day for these people who say that they work like crazy nonstop. So if that's the case where that's how much they're working, I think that's on the employee, not on the employer. I feel like as an employee, you need to step up and be like, this is not in my job description, or
Yeah, but people are terrified because you have to remember, like if you're the W-2 employee, like say you're single, if you lose that one job, boom, you're out of, you've got nothing at that point in time. If you're a single parent, boom, you've got nothing and your kids need to eat. If you're married and you're carrying the benefits, suddenly everybody's screwed. It's the terror that they're able to exert on people because, are you going to say no to them? And the question is, can you say no to them and keep your job? And people are worried about that actually being possible.
Well, this goes to a deeper conversation, which we can have on another show, which is picking the right profession, picking the right company, picking the right industry, because that's another thing. I did work at some of those places in corporate that would have asked me to take on all those hours. But I also worked at some places, or I settled into some places where it was more, hey, just show us results. Work 1 hour a week if you want. Take unlimited vacation, but just show us the results. And that's what I've always gone for.
Unlimited vacation that they've shown actually causes people to take less vacation. Yeah, I love it.
Yep. So interesting stuff, Adam. Anything else about work from home or...
Where are we in a year, Naresh? Start of 2024. What's the state of working from home? Give me your glass ball prediction.
So what I think is we're going to continue to see quite a few layoffs. Tens of thousands of if not hundreds of thousands of layoffs in 2023. And I think we're going to be almost like what I said earlier. It's not going to be, hey, everyone's got to come back to the office, and it's not going to be, hey, everyone's got to stay at work. I think there will be more people on a percentage basis working from home in January 2024 than we saw in 2019. Let's say January 2019 working. So in a 5-year period, over a 5-year period, let's say, this is just hypothetical. Let's say in 2019, 10% of all workers worked from home. I think you'll see at least double that in 2024. Of course, during the pandemic, that went up to like 90% work from home. But I think we'll see a significant jump, like 100% increase over that 5-year period, at least. That's what my prediction is. But I don't think we're going to see I don't think it's going to go from, 10% to 50% or 10% to even 40%. I think it's going to be, maybe 100 to 200%. That's it.
I think by beginning of 2024, no Fortune 100 company will have anybody who works remotely more than 1 day a week. I'd say that's probably likely. I think smaller companies will still have it, but I'd be shocked if the big companies continued allowing people to do it.
Well, it also depends on their real estate leases, on their office leases. So if they have the office space, absolutely. Even if a small company has the office space and they're locked in, they're going to be like, your butt's getting back into the office. That's what I think. But you work for a remote company. I work for remote clients. And it's great, isn't it? Like your new client who you're crushing it with, like, would you say it's pretty efficient overall? Like the whole physical workplace thing hasn't hurt the company?
No, absolutely not. It hadn't hurt the company. I wouldn't be going into an office. I'll put it that way. Being able to roll out of bed at 7:25 because I have a phone call at 7:30.
That's exactly what I do.
Have a minute to wake up, and then I work until 9, and then I take off until around.
Well, the people who run these companies also,
yeah,
I think they have no interest in paying the extra money to.
No.
I mean, we know their personalities. They have zero interest in spending the money. So
until we see more companies being built up starting from a virtual standpoint. So I could see it more in like 10, 15 years when people who are starting businesses now become medium-sized business owners, work from home becoming more of a thing because they've seen, okay, it does work. But having an existing business now and continuing to do a work from home with it is a bit trickier because, like you said, you have your corporate lease, you've got, all your infrastructure built out already. and admitting that that's a sunk cost, good luck getting a lot of business owners to agree to that.
Well, Adam, that wraps up our first episode of the year. It's been pretty good. I'm not sure if we're going to have any more banter episodes between you and me until the end of the year. We'll see, but just want to let our listeners know, please keep listening to us. We really appreciate it. We are continuing to come out with weekly episodes, so there will be 52 this year most likely. And if you have any questions at all, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. Any comments, questions, any thoughts about this work from home movement? Maybe if you want to share your personal story about how your employer is making you go back into the office and you're pissed off about it, we'd love to hear from you. hello@workfromhomeshow.com. You can also contact us or follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, a few others. Anything else, Adam, that you want to ask before we sign off?
What's your goal for the year?
Well, like I told you, I don't do resolutions. I don't do goals, but I do want to accomplish some things, and that includes exercising more. It includes stopping the sugary drinks for good. So this is like health and wellness stuff, which end up doing the best. Statistically, they do probably the best on our show. So yeah, I want to cut out the sugary stuff, the candies, the cookies, the juices, the drinks, the alcohol. I definitely want to exercise more, get a little more toned, and
You
then
still running a mile a day?
No, I was, but you remember I was also walking like 3 miles a day. Ever since my oldest started daycare, I haven't had a partner to go with. So
It's your little one now?
I do. He didn't like the sunlight initially, but now he's starting to sit up, right? So I will start taking him. I think he's ready. He's almost 7 months, so I think he's ready. So the older one's going to be replaced soon. But
Maybe don't use those exact words.
well, the older one gets all my attention, really. I play soccer with him. I play tennis with him, basketball. I mean, he loves sports. He loves it, but just no more walks to the park. I think he's graduated from that. So yeah, I want to take that seriously professionally. I don't set professional goals merely because it's like the whole grade thing. Just put in your best and see where the pieces fall. Put in your best, work your hardest, try your best, maximize everything that you can, and see how things go.
Fair enough.
That's how I view it. So we shall see, Adam, and all our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this New Year 2023 Season 4. Can't believe it. Like I said, we're going to have a Season 5, and we're going to have a Season 6 as well. So stay tuned for those. And until next week, keep on working from home.